Batman's rogues gallery is arguably the biggest rogues of any superhero out there, and what I mean by that specifically is characters with the most pull, the most attention, and the most popularity. There's a big reason why Batman is so popular, and yes, as much as we love the Caped Crusader, it 100% falls on a lot of the villains in making his character and his mythos very interesting. But today I wanted to do something a little bit different and look at what his rogues gallery would look like if he was in the Marvel universe. Now, I've done videos similar to this, DC villains that would fit Marvel heroes and Marvel villains that would fit DC heroes. However, when going into those videos, I only did 2 villains per hero. I wanted to go a little bit more in depth and go with about 8 villains and explain why they would fit for Batman. And another big thing is Spider-Man's rogues gallery. There are so many people who would agree that you could swap these 2 characters' rogues galleries, so no doubt about it, there's going to be some Spider-Man villains in this list, but not all of them. There are some other villains around the Marvel universe that would fit Batman just as well. So with that being said, let's get right into the first option. The first character I have selected is Green Goblin, and we have talked about a Batman vs. Green Goblin matchup on this channel a couple of times before. Green Goblin has the closest characteristics to the Joker, bringing in pure chaos and also questioning Batman's motives and conflicting his ideologies, presenting a lack of control or perhaps second guessing. Both Norman and Bruce are wealthy industry owners with an endless amount of resources to fight each other, either as businessmen or costumed hero and villain. Green Goblin's obsession with Batman would lead him to make their brawls dramatic spectacles and probably personal, attacking those close to Batman and pushing him to his edge. I know there is bound to be some people out there who think this is not possible because Green Goblin would easily defeat Batman. I just say a really ignorant take, considering Batman has proven time and time and time again over the countless history of DC that he can handle himself against superpowered foes and even defeat some of those superpowered foes with ease. So I think Batman and Green Goblin would be a very convincing matchup. Of course, Batman in Gotham City is no stranger to lunatic, psychotic presences. The Green Goblin persona 100% fits the bill. I think what gets interesting with a lot of these characters, but especially if you want to look at someone like Norman, is how is it now fitting into Batman's world, into his origin, into his story? Is this just industry rivalries where Norman hates Wayne Enterprises? Did Norman perhaps have a conflicting relationship with his father in the past? Was Norman once part of Wayne Industries and was wrongfully terminated? There's a lot of ways you could connect Green Goblin to Batman, but no doubt about it, without missing a beat, there will remain a Joker presence in Batman's career of crime fighting. And we know how dangerous Joker is. We've seen what that character has been capable of doing himself over the years, just crossing even farther than just Batman himself. Green Goblin could be on that level, if not even larger. He has a form of super strength. He has his own suit. He has gadgets just like Batman. He's got a glider, and one might argue he may have a little more purpose than Joker does. So I think there's no doubt Green Goblin needs to be here. Then I have Kingpin. He would be the crime lord of all crime lords, representing the city itself and having a chokehold on nearly every important infrastructure, person, place, or thing, really. Both Batman and Kingpin would move and act like chess pieces. Every decision has a purpose. Plans would be in place no matter how big or small, and one or both of them would always be 2 steps ahead. Both of them would feel as if they bring peace, order, and justice to the city, but Kingpin's moral corruption would make him a dangerous foe to Batman. Batman has experience with this type of villain and with other villains that we're going to get into moving forward in the video. But I would argue he has never faced a crime lord on the level of Kingpin. Yes, there's Penguin. Yes, there's Carmine Falcone. Yes, there's Black Mask. Maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but I will say, even if they are on the level of status and reputation as Kingpin, nobody has the oomph factor of Kingpin in that way. As cool as some of those villains are, when you see Kingpin, you know him, you know his purpose, and you know that anybody in the room has immediately lost command. Kingpin's a character who refuses to give up even when he is close to defeat. He always has an ace up his sleeve. In my personal opinion, I think Batman and Kingpin would be one of the more interesting recurring villains and storylines that we could get our hands on if Batman had a Marvel Rogues Gallery. Then we have Kraven the Hunter, which I've also mentioned him before with Batman. As an apex predator and hunter, Kraven would be drawn into Batman's raw and alpha-like presence, capable of accomplishing things no human should be capable of. Batman would also be Kraven's ultimate scorer. Along with his immense skill, Kraven would grow a respect and genuine admiration for the Dark Knight, and he would perhaps try to make their rivalry feel primal or mythic, an idea that only one of these apex predators can stay standing. You would be in store for one of the coolest, most epic, brutal fight scenes we've ever seen between two characters. And I did say Kraven would grow a fond respect for the Dark Knight, but I'll be honest, I think there would be a respect for Batman towards Kraven. If you don't respect your enemy, you've already lost. Batman would maybe see a man who is dedicated, who has drive, who has a particular passion for their craft, and at that point, how can you not respect it? Perhaps there's an interesting storyline waiting to happen here where Kraven thinks he finally defeated Batman, uncowls him, and Kraven becomes Batman for a short time. His obsession to beat the Batman has now become to be Batman. Then we move into Silver Samurai. You could deep root this character into Bruce's travels to become the warrior he is now, enacting as a Ra's al Ghul type character. Their rivalry could be personal, as Silver Samurai fights Bruce on his lack of loyalty to his teachings and clan. Silver Samurai also remains calm, cool, and collected, unlike some of the more mentally colorful villains Batman has, which would then make their conflicts towards one another feel much more grounded. Again, rooting it into his origin as Batman travels the world to become one of the best fighters, he could have made his way across Silver Samurai, where their relationship at the beginning is friendly. But as time goes on and he learns more from Silver Samurai, he realizes that Bruce is more or less being groomed for his purposes, and that's when he gets out and leaves. And as time goes on, when Bruce finally becomes Batman, Silver Samurai sniffs him out. There's that potential you could turn this into a League of Shadows situation where he is trying to get Batman to join his cause once more and become a warrior in his clan. You could take this as an opportunity much more often to show how good Batman is fighting with weaponry, with swords, with katanas, just to truly show every piece and ounce of skill Bruce has obtained over his years of training. And a lot of Batman's discipline, dedication, and training methods do feel very Japanese in ways. And you could see through a villain like Silver Samurai how he learned some of these practices. Then we look at Lizard. a tragedy like Mr. Freeze or Man-Bat. Lizard represents a good man lost to his experiments, driving Batman, though, more likely to find a cure rather than treating him like another lunatic-type villain. Like other characters, for example, Clayface or Killer Croc, Lizard would remind Batman not all villains are evil for evil's sake, some can be victims. Kirk Connors could even be connected again to Bruce Wayne through some sort of origin connection, through his company, perhaps an old family friend of his parents, making his descent into Lizard feel personal for Bruce. I think one of the best ways to handle Lizard would be the way it already is with Spider-Man. Somebody who Bruce Wayne knows in his personal life, and after hearing what has happened to Dr. Connors, turning into this massive mindless lizard creature, he feels sympathy for the man and won't rest until he figures out how to save him. Now, Lizard would be one of his toughest tests, considering we've seen versions of the Lizard who is huge, ruthless, super strong, and even gives Spider-Man a run for his money. That's not to say Batman hasn't gone up against things that are far past his capabilities and still beats them, but that's not to take away how much of a tough foe this would be. Then I have Bullseye, a Deadshot familiarity, except we explore a professional assassin who takes pride in killing for money and for fun. His talent and love for killing would rival Batman's refrain from killing, wondering how far someone like Poindexter would go to remain as sadistic as he is. In martial skill, Batman takes the cake all day, there's no doubt about that, but as a ranged combatant with dead-eye accuracy. If we thought Batman was good with his batarangs and other throwable objects, well, we haven't seen anything yet with Bullseye. He could use devices and weapons that even throw Batman off. One of the big things I kind of took inspiration was from the Batman Under the Red Hood, especially from the movie when you see that scene where Batman's grappling and Red Hood takes out a knife and cuts the rope. Batman, paraphrasing, basically says there's not many things, if at all, that can cut my rope, and Red Hood knew the exact material that could do it with ease. You could do something like that with Bullseye. Perhaps he has specific devices, specific weapons that could go right after Batman's own gadgets, leaving Batman to fend for himself through his mental training, not being capable of relying on his technology. And considering Batman upholds the sanctity of innocent human lives, Bullseye could use that exact thing against him. And the longer Batman takes to get to him, the more innocent people Bullseye will kill. A lot of Batman's villains are ruthless, cold, cruel, and the lowest depths of evil you could ever imagine. And we would need to keep it that same way with some of these characters, Bullseye being one of them. Then I decided to go with Mysterio. Similar to Scarecrow, Mysterio could utilize and weaponize fear, turning Batman's surroundings into a psychological battleground. Batman's senses would be tested and his detective intellect would need to come into play to deduce Mysterio's arrogance and flaws. Mysterio's ego is a driving force, and similar to Riddler, he would need to prove in any way possible that he is better than Batman. I think something that would be really cool here, for example, if you look at Arkham Asylum and look at Scarecrow's story stages, how they're mapped out and created for Batman. He's thrown into these chaotic fever dream worlds where nothing really makes sense and the laws of physics are being denied. Yet Batman always more or less seems to keep his cool in those moments. And I think that would be such a really awesome scenario for Batman to be in with Mysterio. Mysterio constantly trying to get under his skin and Batman just remaining calm, cool, and collective and trying to deduce the best way out. Look through the seams and the cracks that even Mysterio can't always keep covered. Truthfully, the more I thought about this matchup, I think Batman is far too smart for Mysterio. However, I do think he could be a character that will never give up and will will always try to better himself to at least show Batman he's trying something new. Last for this video, but certainly not the least of who could be in Batman's rogues gallery, I went with Dr. Doom. Two intellectual and preparation powerhouses. There is no doubt Doom would test Batman's intellect, and at one of the highest levels he's ever had to go. Now, Doom's knowledge on science and mystic arts gives him an undeniable edge that Batman would need to either find ways to work around that, or maybe even learn some mysticism himself. I think this would be the pinnacle of an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, and how they refrain from destroying half the world in the process to discover who is who. Now, I'm obviously half kidding about that last part. Batman's not going to destroy half the world just to defeat Dr. Doom, but somebody's got to keep these two guys' egos in check. At some point, I would genuinely wonder when this has become less of Batman needing to stop a villain and more of them measuring their manlyhood. Now, I'm sure there are some people waiting to say that Dr. Doom would lay out Batman, and if that's what you believe, that's up to you, but it just simply wouldn't happen. Especially in comic book worlds and settings, it's never that simple, and it will never be made that simple, because then at that point, Dr. Doom could do that to any intelligent character in the Marvel Universe, and he just doesn't do it, so it's not going to happen to Batman either. I think a lot of the people who don't want Batman going up against Dr. Doom is just a lot of people who don't like Batman or find themselves in a place where they don't want Batman being as powerful as he has made to be over the past 20 to 30 years. That's just who the character is nowadays. I don't care how he did it and what he had to do it with. He's gone up against Darkseid. That's all I need to know. But looking less at power scaling and more about how intriguing a story could be between these two characters, this is a thought-provoking thriller just waiting to happen. With both of their ideologies, some pieces of them being able to agree with one another on things, other pieces disagreeing, and maybe things that Dr. Doom is even willing to do that Batman wishes he could do, but his morality is keeping him away from doing it. There is so much potential between these two characters. Again, honestly, guys, screw the power scaling. Look at the story. There's something here. So those are my 8 options of Marvel's Rogues Gallery for Batman. And just very quickly, some honorable mentions. I did have Black Cat, Elektra, and Morbius. Black Cat and Elektra kind of acting as those anti-heroes, maybe starting off as villains but becoming heroes as time goes on. Black Cat would rival the Catwoman persona. However, I think on a more immature level that Batman probably wouldn't like as much. Elektra featuring that Talia al Ghul role, maybe somebody he's known for quite a long time when he was out in the world training as Bruce Wayne. Then Morbius, I thought it would fit that gothic Gotham vibe. And also there is a Batman vs. Dracula, and Morbius would be a perfect vibe and fit for that. Again, there are so many Marvel villains out there that could be part of Batman's Rogues Gallery that I just did not get to. I'm even talking characters like Vulture, Mystique, Lady Deathstrike. So with that, you guys let me know in the comments below who you think would make some great choices. That is all I have for you on this video, everyone. I do hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next time, I will talk to you all very soon.